Welcome, family, to another edition of Stranger Thinking Media. This is Yeshayahu, where we bring you the gospel of Yahusha HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, to address the problems of a modern world. Today's topic: and now begin the days of the King, the Sabbath rest, the 1,000-year millennial reign of Yahusha HaMashiach. Leviticus chapter 23. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be a Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord Yahweh. On the first day shall be an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein. And ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of fig trees, and willows of the brook, and ye shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim 7 days, and ye shall keep it a feast unto Yahweh 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. Ye shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths, when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. I am Yahweh Eloheinu, that is the Lord your God. And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feasts of Yahweh.
Now come the days of the King. May they be blessed.
Wow, I always love that scene. It's like I said in the last video, that was one of my childhood favorites. I read the books, cover to cover. I think I read them like 5 times during the course of my life. But yeah, it never gets old for me. Ethnicities aside, I know that there'd be some people are not happy about that, but I was just trying to get the actual point across, and that is the millennial reign of Yahusha HaMashiach. So we saw during the Feast of Trumpets, it's the second coming. He returns in power. And then, well, we kind of skipped one. We didn't do the Yom Kippur video. I'm going to do that for next year. But after Yom Kippur, which is essentially putting away Satan and the Satans, casting them into the lake of fire, and the establishment of the reign of the Most High. So this Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles, as it's called, is symbolic of the millennial reign of the Messiah. And so there's a lot of symbolisms in the observance of it. So I'm not going to get all into it because I got another video I want you to see. But I thought that little snippet from that movie was, if you understand about the writer himself, he was a biblical scholar himself. And of course, he fashioned an entire storyline or world that was kind of based on the Bible and also on what was going on during World War II. He kind of combined that with medieval Europe, essentially. So he comes up with these novels. A lot of people don't recognize the parallelisms to the scriptures, and some people, they call it the Dungeons and Dragons and witchcraft stuff, and I don't think that was the intent. I think the intent was to, at that time when he wrote it, was to motivate his people, to give them, faith and confidence in the light of the bombings of, England during World War II. But it tells a really nice story of overcoming the odds and the return of the king and the setup of his kingdom in glory. So I thought that was just a nice segue into all of this.
The Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. The Feast of Tabernacles is the seventh and final appointed time found in Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23, Yahweh said, "Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, on the 15th of this 7th month is the Feast of Booths for 7 days to the Lord." Verse 42, "You shall live in booths for 7 days, so that your generations may know that I had the sons of Israel live in booths when I brought them out from the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." So what exactly is this tabernacle? It's a booth, or a small hut, a temporary dwelling place. The Hebrew word for booths is Sukkot. The first mention of Sukkot in the Bible is in Genesis 33, verse 17. "And Jacob journeyed to Sukkot and built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the place is named Sukkot." Once Israel was in the Promised Land, this day was known as the great gathering of all their crops. Deuteronomy 16. "You shall celebrate the Feast of Booths 7 days after you have gathered in from your threshing floor and your wine vat, and you shall rejoice in your feast." This last appointed time of the year is for everyone, a week of coming together, rejoicing, and having a feast. So what does Sukkot represent when we look at Yeshua? When Yeshua has his second return, the Feast of Tabernacles will be the great gathering of his people from around the world, coming back to the Promised Land, the kingdom of God. Also, after the kingdom is established, all the outside nations will be required to come to the New Jerusalem every year to celebrate this appointed time. It's all prophesied in Zechariah. Zechariah 8:22. "So many peoples and mighty nations will come to seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem and to entreat the favor of the Lord." Zechariah 14:16. "Then it will come about that any who are left of all the nations that went against Jerusalem will go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to celebrate the Feast of Booths."
And so also booth is symbolic of being as a temporary dwelling. It's also symbolic in a sense of the flesh, the putting off of the flesh. So it's also a fulfillment because you got to understand the first resurrection has taken place. So the believers were resurrected. And then those who were alive at his coming, they were instantly, in the twinkling of an eye, turned into spiritual beings. They were turned into Elohim and made immortal because, as it's written, only the Elohim are immortal. If I use the King James English, only God is immortal. So for you to have immortality, that should clue you in as to what his plan for you is. He's creating a family. You're invited to join that family and put on immortality. And so tabernacles being a temporary booth, it's also kind of a way of saying your flesh that you're in now is just a temporary dwelling. This is a temporary booth. So there's a whole lot to dig in into the symbolism. But you got to understand this: all the holy days combined tell one continuous story. So we saw in the Feast of Trumpets that was the second coming at the sound of the trump, and then he comes back, and then comes Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, and then he puts all the sins of the people on the head of the goat, and the goat is carried off into the wilderness, so he can't find his way back, and by the hand of a strong man, and that would equate to Michael, the archangel, right? So the scapegoat, and they called him Azazel, who was one of the chief watchers, those angels that left their first estate and kind of procreated with human women. One of them's name was Azazel, and it was Azazel who taught men how to war and kill effectively and efficiently, And so he got a very special punishment. So there's a lot of ins and outs, nuances to this festival here, and all the festivals in general. The holy days is what we call them. Holy convocation, in which you shall do no servile work, meaning it is a Sabbath, an annual Sabbath, and that's very important to understand when you look at that week that the Messiah was crucified, because there were 2 Sabbaths that week, and a lot of Christians don't understand that. So, but that's another video. That's a whole nother video. So this feast is held for 7 days, right? And each day a sacrifice is brought and, made by fire unto the Most High through that time frame, culminating in the last, what they call a holy convocation, on the 8th day, which is called the last great day, which is symbolic of the great white throne judgment. And so that's a lot of things. Another thing that a lot of people don't know. So the great white throne judgment, we're taught that, you die and you go to heaven, or you die and you go to hell. But that's not what this is saying. It's giving you a process where things happen. There's 2 resurrections. So the resurrection at the beginning of the millennial reign, when the dead in Christ rise to meet him in the air, and then those who are alive at his second coming are translated and changed into immortal beings. Okay? And that group comes down along with the living creatures. You call them angels. I call them living creatures because they were created. And then they come down, and basically the armies of the earth turn on them. I don't know, maybe the armies of the earth think it's an alien invasion or something. Who knows? But they turn on them and get just discomfited. Discomfited, is that how you say it? In other words, they get wrecked. And so much so that as we learn a little more in the book of Zechariah, it says, of the nations that remain. So the Messiah wrecks them. And I don't think we understand that. I think we're still, in the minds of people, we're waiting for, you hear it all the time. Oh, God is love. God is love. Yeah. But there's such a thing as tough love. And there's a point here where he allows us to get to the point where if he did not cut the day short, all flesh would be destroyed. And he wasn't letting that happen, because then the Satans would have thwarted his plan, and he's not gonna let that happen. But he has to teach mankind a lesson. See, here's what following the Satans has done for you. It has brought you to the point of complete annihilation. Are you ready to listen now? He's not even really asking. He comes down, he stops it, and he does what he has to do to put an end to it. Because you know how stubborn human beings can be. And so he establishes his rule on earth. But now there are people who haven't been, translated, who haven't, who are not part of the first resurrection, but they're still alive. And of the nations that remain. And so in the video we just saw, he talked about all the nations having to come up from year to year to Jerusalem to observe the Feast of Tabernacles. And so, for all the people who think this is a Jewish thing, or that's something Moses came up with, I got some scriptures I'm going to run at you. Some out of the book of Jubilees, just so you understand. And I've gone over these things before, that these feast days were being held long before Moses. And it wasn't circumcised people who were doing it. It was uncircumcised people who were doing it. So you have to understand this. These are the feasts of the creator of heaven and earth. And if you notice, in this kingdom age, and get it, he's talking about a world ruling kingdom here on earth, not some good feeling in your heart. Yes, it would be a good feeling in your heart. Yeah, I'm sure of that. But he's talking about an actual world ruling kingdom. And he calls it in the book of 2nd Esdras, was that chapter 6 and verse 9? He calls it, I believe, the kingdom of Jacob, which means the kingdom of Israel. And the king is of the tribe of Yehudah, Israel, the nation of Israel. And so I think we got this whole thing all mixed up. Somehow the church thinks they have replaced Israel, but the Most High says not one kernel will fall to the ground. He's going to gather them back, and that's what Sukkot is, bringing his people back from all over the earth. He even says, I will no longer be known as the Elohim that brought the children out of Egypt into the promised land, but I will henceforth be known as the Elohim that brought them, meaning, the God that brought them from the four corners of the earth and brought them back to Jerusalem, to the promised land. So something big is happening. Something big is happening. And I don't think we get it. There are forces in motion that cannot be undone. The bell is rung. This thing is going to go to the end. And you just need to be ready. It's a crazy world we live in. And this is the sound of the shofar. You'll hear this at the return of the Messiah. And I'll say this. If you want to drive out evil spirits, this will do it. Because what do the Satans know? They know that the Messiah returns at the sound of the shofar, the trumpet. So when they hear this, they have to look over their shoulders, because it might come. It might be the one. So here's a picture of a booth. There's actually a lot of time and effort went into this one. It doesn't have to be this elaborate, but if you can imagine, people from all over the world coming to Jerusalem, and they pitch these booths. It could be a tent. It's a temporary dwelling. Like I said, this one is a not so temporary dwelling. It looks like you could live in this one, but a temporary dwelling. So people will be camped out. It'll be like, if you can imagine, Woodstockish, before Jerusalem. I mean, millions of people observing the Feast of Tabernacles. And it's a beautiful thing once you understand what is done during that feast. And it's like just really a beautiful thing. We chase after things that have no scriptural value. In fact, I said, I believe it was the book of Jeremiah, he tells them, do not do like the nations, because their worship is vain. I don't even acknowledge their crap. But he's given us these things, and we choose to follow the ways of Babylon. Because everything else that people are following comes right out of Babylon. And you got to ask yourself, And I'm not saying it's a sin to do certain other things, it, but to do that and then to put down people for doing this, observing the feast of the Most High, that's just nuts. That's insanity, you know? So I'm just trying to tell people this, we're getting to the close of business here, basically. And you want to study to show yourself approved. Don't take any chances. Study that book. And like I said, this is not something Moses invented. These feasts were being observed long before Moses. In fact, the children of Israel, at a point in time, became the only people still adhering to it. And that's because Yah, the creator of heaven and earth, said he's chosen this people for his inheritance. So, though all other nations have gone astray after the era of Babylon, this one nation held a course. And of course, eventually, because of their sins, Yah had to remove his protection from them. And so the Satans came in and wrecked them. And he wrecked them so, or they wrecked them so bad that you don't even know where Israel is today, right? Well, some people know where they are, but basically demolished them, dispersed them, as though they had never been, right? But they're still around, and I'm sure some of them are waking up to who they are as we speak. So anyway, here's some more scriptures I want you to chomp on. I got a nice little quote here. But a constitution of government once changed from freedom can never be restored. Liberty once lost is lost forever. John Adams. I thought that was an interesting quote. So here's some scriptures out of Jubilees. Jubilees 16. And in the 6th year of the 4th week, we came to Abraham, to the well of the oath, and we appeared unto him. Now, in Jubilees, a lot of times they're speaking from the perspective of angelic beings, as if they're dictating what they did. So that's what's happening here. So they appeared to him at the well of the oath. I'll drop down. And we blessed him, and we announced to him all the things which had been decreed concerning him, that he should not die till he should beget 6 sons more, a total of 7 sons. That's interesting. And should see them before he died, but that in Isaac should his name and seed be called, because he has chosen the descendants of Yitzhak to be his inheritance. Well, one of the brothers, he created one vessel unto honor and one vessel unto dishonor. And that's the story of Esau and Jacob. Jubilee 16. And he built there an altar to Yahweh, who had delivered him, and who was making him rejoice in the land of his sojourning. And he celebrated a festival of joy in this month. 7 days. Aha! So I wonder what festival that is. Near the altar which he had built at the well of the oath. So you see, Abraham is doing this. And he built booths. Oh, wait a minute. That's a giveaway. He built booths for himself long before Moses ever built booths, or the Levites were a thing. You know, this is way before that. And so he built booths for himself and for his servants, and on this festival, and he was the first to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles on the earth. Oh, okay. So they give it to you right there. And during these 7 days, he brought each day to the altar a burnt offering to Yahweh, 2 oxen, 2 rams, 7 sheep, 1 he-goat, for a sin offering, that he might atone thereby for himself and for his seed. Awesome. And now we go to Zechariah, which they mentioned in the video. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. It'll get supernatural on them. Yah is not messing around. He says, we've been through this. We're not going back down this. You will do as you are commanded, or you will face immediate consequences. That's how this thing is playing out. There's no more. Yeah, the grace is over. That's what I'm trying to tell people. At this point, the grace is done. You're either obedient or you're not. And if you're not, there's an end. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. He's expecting all the families of the earth, not just Israel. All the families of the earth better be there, and you better be on time. And how are you going to even know? You're going to be following the commandments just like everybody, just like Israel, or you're not, and the end is not going to be good. So these are things just to think about, and hopefully this has been enlightening to you, and you guys kind of get the idea. But we're going to add more to the series until we've covered all the feasts, and we'll all learn together. Well, family, farewell. I love you all so much, and thank you so much for continually supporting my content. If you did enjoy this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And share this with your friends and family. And I'm sure they'll find it interesting as well. I'm very excited to continue this journey with you. I thank you all for bringing certain stories to my attention and for continually keeping me updated with certain events around the world. I very much appreciate you all, and shout out to the channel members. May everybody have a beautiful and blessed day. Who's in the body of Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ of Nazareth. And I'll see you all on the next video. Shalom.